You get plenty of coverage of Oklahoma State football. You think you hear all the noise coming from Gallagher-Iba Arena when you get your Cowboy basketball news. But you don't.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
And there's a couple of Jordans here to fix just that. This is the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast.
This could be a podcast. Anyone with a computer can make one.
Here are your hosts, Jordan Keene and Jordan Bishop.
Welcome in here to the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast. That's right, here in the Triple Play Sports Radio Studios, kind of the production studio, actually. So, not actually in the radio studio. We'll head over there in just a second, Jordan, and do some radio coming up here in about an hour and a half. Recording this on Tuesday afternoon, as we normally do, and you're going to head over a little bit later and talk to Coach Littell. So, looking forward to hearing that on the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast.
Yeah, they got a big week. Obviously, coming off a game they get some games that they don't want to kind of remember, but going into a big week with more must-wins games, and kind of talk to Coach Littell a bit about what he thinks about this team's program and also about his history. He's been coaching for 40 years now. This is his 41st year, and just about what he thinks about his legacy.
Yeah, so we'll update you quick on the Big 12 standings. Baylor, as we know, sitting at the top, still that lone loss out of conference to Stanford, 13-0. Texas 10-4, suffering a loss down at K-State. You were talking about here before we started recording. Iowa State in third, 9-4. Bridget Carlton, the Player of the Week, I think should be Player of the Year in the Big 12. We're probably fighting an uphill battle. I think you kind of turned me on to that, and we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. West Virginia 9-4, TCU 8-6, K-State 7-7. So despite that good win over Texas, probably not a tournament team that we're looking at with K-State.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're receiving votes this week in the AP poll, and we'll have to check their RPI, honestly, because women still use the RPI. They don't use the net rating like the men do, and I think they're moving up. K-State's had some good wins. Obviously, a sweep against Texas will help you out because Texas is still ranked top 20. So we might be able to get, maybe 6 teams in. I think the bubble, we talked about 4, maybe only 3. It might be expanding for the Big 12. You never know.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing for the Big 12. There's no doubt about that, and obviously very disappointing. If 6 teams get in, Oklahoma State's going to feel pretty bad about not being there, because you'd expect this team to be a top 6 team in this league. Oklahoma State comes in at 7th at 4-9, Texas Tech at 3-11, and then the bottom feeders Kansas and OU at 2-11. So I mean, absolutely, if they get 6 in, I would be extremely disappointed in this year, considering the fact you have 2, in my opinion, Big 12 Player of the Year candidates. They're not gonna win it, Vivian Gray or Braxton Miller, but I think it'd be unreasonable to say they aren't candidates, considering their scoring prowess and how well they've played in the league this year. Got to say that's a disappointment not to be in the conversation for the tournament.
That's why tomorrow's going to be such a big game, bringing West Virginia, 6 o'clock tip. That's a team that you go over to Morgantown, and Morgantown historically hasn't been kind to OSU. You lose that game, but you have a feeling that maybe you should have won it. I think West Virginia's a hot team right now. They come in GIA, and OSU has a good game plan for them like they did with Baylor. Coming away with a win, you get some momentum going for you, and you maybe do climb in that top 6. Because right now, I think TCU has a chance at last 4 in. They're in that 6th spot right now. They went up and beat Iowa State, so they have some good momentum going for them. So I think that if you do find a way in the top 6, you have something maybe to say about hopefully getting into the tournament.
Yeah, so we'll see. Obviously, Baylor comes in, or West Virginia comes in here, and probably Tynese Martin, probably a future WNBA player, and she killed them up in Morgantown. And Vivian Gray's playing really well right now. She's like I said, she's definitely in that Player of the Year conversation in the Big 12. But it's just kind of been that supporting cast that we've talked about all year. What do you see with West Virginia coming in here? Because it's unfair to say that it's just Tynese Martin that you have to stop.
Yeah, and they've honestly had a resurgence. They start off the year kind of slow, and you're thinking maybe some injuries, because they've had some injuries, and you're thinking maybe that they just couldn't overcome them, and maybe it's just not going to be their year. And then they come on as of late, the past month, and they're coming to be the team that they were supposed to be. And they're sitting at number 5 right now. I think they can climb up, maybe get a win against OSU, and they maybe climb in the top 3. Texas might be going down. West Virginia can go up. I think this is a team that's very hot right now. Tynese Martin, like you mentioned, is playing out of her mind. So they got all the hype they had before the year, they're starting to regain that and starting to live up to it.
Yeah, so again, it'd be interesting to see. They're 9-4. That'd be a really good win for Oklahoma State. Obviously getting swept by the other top 3 teams. So if you get swept by the top 4 teams, you understand that's you're not meant to be up there. So we'll see if Oklahoma State will both be out there tomorrow and covering that one. So looking forward to that. Get some Big 12 softball standings because that's into full effect here. And Texas Tech 10-0, the only undefeated team. Oklahoma took a little knock at the Clearwater Invitational to the best team in the country in Florida State. Texas lost also, so they're 7-1. Oklahoma State lost a couple out there, 7-3. 7-4 Baylor, and Iowa State and Kansas coming up at the bottom, just 2 and 3 wins respectively there. So probably not the weekend that the Big 12 wanted to have, but when you look at the losses, you kind of understand where the losses come from.
Yeah, I think going out of that weekend down in Clearwater, Oklahoma State is kind of feeling a bit on the Notre Dame loss. That's probably the one that I just came from Cowgirl softball complex talking to Coach Kenny Gajewski, and he said that's the one where he just couldn't think anything positive to say. LSU loss, you just were one play away. They had bases loaded a couple times. They just couldn't get that run across, and then LSU had that play because OSU was up 1-0. LSU all of a sudden gets a 3-run inning there, I think in the 5th, and comes away with it. So I think that was a great game to watch. LSU is obviously a top 10 team, and you have some moments like that where you don't have it happen, but then you also build to it to where their last game of the tournament against Hofstra, close game, Hofstra had bases loaded, might have taken the lead there. Mason Montgomery turned to double play there off a good pitch from Logan Simonek set it up for on the hit. Get out of that, and next inning, 7 runs on 7 hits, and a run roll on the team. So I think they're getting that confidence to have those moments, but it's going to be tested this week down in California because that's historically has not been kind to them.
Well, it's funny you say that because when we talked to Montgomery, we had her on a couple weeks ago. We talked to her. She talked about the potent nature of this lineup, and for the first time, really, I mean, we saw it a little bit down in Houston, but you kind of took it a little bit with a grain of salt because those weren't the top teams. Everyone that they played down in Florida was receiving votes. Mm-hmm. Like, this was the best of the best down there, and you saw a couple times that this offense can be great. And I think you got to take a little bit of pride in the fact that, like you said, you were one hit away from LSU. And LSU, I was really impressed with their freshman pitcher that pitched against them. She was terrific. But Texas, that's the team they lost to, and they lost 7-1 to LSU. So I think you got to take a little bit of pride with the way that your pitchers haven't been perfect, but I think you realize that they can go about 2 or 3 deep and still feel pretty good about who they're running out in the circle.
Yeah, and I think that, seeing that confidence, the pitching staff has had something I haven't seen before. The past couple of years, it's just been kind of the hodgepodge lineup thrown together, and Coach Gajewski's even mentioned that. But this year, he mentions he has so many good ones, and even Sam Clakley kind of gets forgotten a bit. But Sam Shaw came out there. I was watching the broadcast on ESPN. Noticed she had the C on her chest, and I was like, oh, name the captain, and talked to her a bit about it today. And she said it's something that she's wanted her entire career. She never got at A&M, and Coach Gajewski said she deserved it, she earned it, and you can tell that not only with how she plays, but with how she affects the rest of the pitching staff and how they play, especially Logan Simonek, who is playing with a lot more confidence this year.
Well, and probably takes a little bit of pressure off Simonek, who maybe wasn't, I don't want to speak for her, but maybe she wasn't ready for being the number one of a staff. But it's nice to, even if she views herself as 1A and 1B, which is how I view this, I don't really care who's the first pitcher. If you want to argue it's Shao, go ahead. If you want to argue it's Simonek, I think you can argue that too. And it's nice to have a 1A, 1B rather than a 1 and a clear 2, in my opinion. So talk about who are the captains of this team, because if some people hadn't seen, maybe some surprises.
The captains are Sydney Pennington, obviously a phenom freshman last year, and she's a great shortstop from Sand Springs.
And that was one. Sorry to interrupt, but that was one that kind of shocked me. Not often not every program or every year that you see a sophomore that is considered one of the leaders of the team, but she absolutely is.
Yeah, she definitely is. She acts beyond her years, and she was a big steal for Coach Gajewski's staff getting her, because Patty Gaskell wanted her down to OU, and in-state kid, and she's kind of going to be the one, I think, who's going to turn things around in the state for the Cowgirls, and she carries herself in a way, and she even gave up her shortstop position this year to Kylie Naomi, took over third base because she knows it's going to be best of the team. She always thinks team-first mindset. Then the other one, Elise LaBeouf, she doesn't get as much playing time. She's a senior. She carries herself. She's also another person who transferred in from Houston a couple years ago. She does a lot of things that might go unnoticed, but doesn't go unnoticed to Coach Gajewski, and that's why he put the C on her chest. Then obviously Sam Shao comes in this year from Texas A&M, and just she immediately brought a different energy to this team, and he thinks that this is kind of just what she deserved a long time ago, and she's now finally getting it.
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun team to watch. And, man, I'll tell you what. I only got to see probably 5 or 6 innings of that LSU game. I say only. I saw almost the whole game. But in the course of a season, 2 innings or 5 innings, 6 innings, whatever, is not a ton. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of this team. But, man, that shortstop, Kylie Naomi, I mean, I think she is the real deal. And, wow, some of the plays she makes, I think it's going to come to her a little bit at the plate, and once that does, we saw it a little bit later in the weekend, actually. Yeah. We saw her a little bit better at the plate, and when she finally gets comfortable, man, this lineup, hard to find a hole.
Yeah, and that's what, Coach G said. It's even hard to find people to pinch hit for sometimes because the lineup is so solid throughout. So I think that once things get going, I mean, we got to remember this is only the second weekend, going into the third weekend of the season, and they're still figuring things out, but once they get going, it's going to be good. And everybody's going to be able to see that next weekend when they have their first home tournament in Stillwater. I think all the season tickets are sold out for that, so it should be a good one. Bringing Syracuse, obviously Vanessa Shippey. Hopefully we'll have her on, and then just getting to see them back in Cowgirl Stadium would be nice.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting out there and maybe covering a little bit of that, for sure covering a little bit of that. But when we start talking softball, you start talking baseball, it doesn't feel right when you go outside and it's sleeting outside. It just, and obviously men's had to cancel, the baseball side had to cancel this week, so or at least today. I find it hard to believe they're going to play tomorrow, but we'll obviously see about that. Arizona State, North Carolina, San Diego State, Arizona, Colorado State, a couple of Arizona schools that will prove a little bit of a tough test here coming up, and another chance to go up and maybe bite someone ahead of you in the polls.
Yeah, they're both top 15 teams. North Carolina's receiving votes. OSU's up to 16 in the ESPN poll, 20 in the coaches poll. So they stay pat, and the coaches go up 1 spot in the ESPN. And I think if they do get some of those wins against the Arizona schools, then they'll definitely be in the top 15. I think that's going to be the highest that coach has ever had. He's never had anybody above 15 in this program. So just, again, a chance to gain some more momentum.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing about it is if you are a fan and you never want to see a team lose, but we saw a team lose twice. We saw this team lose twice and move up in one of the polls. So I think that's if that tells you what the rest of the softball world thinks of this program, I think that should be what you see from that and what you take away, because you lose 2 times and you have 3 losses on the year, not a lot of people would be keen to move you up unless they really believed in you, and I think that's the case with this team. So good softball talk there. We'll on the other side, we're going to hit some equestrian. We're going to talk a little bit of the women's golf team, maybe a little tennis coming up here as well. But first, we'll take this interview that you are out there at up at basketball with Coach Littell, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he had to say. I have a day job, so I gotta be on the air. So looking forward to this, and I will be listening intently once you get this audio back to me. Looking forward to this interview with Coach Littell.
And we are courtside here at Eddie Sutton Court in Gallagher Arena. This is Jordan Bishop. I'm here with Oklahoma State women's basketball head coach Jim Littell. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jordan. Thank you.
Just overall, Coach, you've been coaching for this is your 41st year, right?
Correct.
Just how did you get into this? I know you told me before that your first job, you were the bus driver, the assistant volleyball coach. You did pretty much everything under the sun.
Hey, don't downgrade me. I was the head volleyball coach, 7th grade girls. So, no, both my mom and dad were coaches. My grandpa was a coach. My sister coached. So that's basically all we knew in our family. And I wanted to stay around athletics and involved in that. And wasn't good enough to play past the college level. So that was a way I could stay doing something that I truly love.
Overall, what was your first year coaching the girls' game like? Just how was that transition for you, going from obviously playing the game to being a coach, even at such a young age?
You know, it's kind of ironic. I interviewed for a boys' job at a small high school, Oxford, Kansas, and didn't get that job, and I wasn't going to take the girls. I was determined that there was no way I was going to coach girls basketball, and I ended up taking the job and just fell in love with the way they wanted to learn, get better. Everything was fun, and just fell in love with girls basketball at that point, and have never changed and never looked back, and been so pleased with my decision.
Then obviously overall you won a national championship at Seward. What was it like coming here? Oklahoma State was a program down its luck. Came here with Coach Bucky in 2005. What was that transition like, trying to make this program into a winning one?
Well, it was tough the first year. We went. That was when you played 16 games in the Big 12, and we went 0-16 and never won a game from December on. So it was really tough, but we committed to coaching the kids that we had there and trying to get them better, plus getting out and recruiting and trying to better ourselves on the recruiting road. And it didn't take long to do that. Coach had a good scheme, and we went from 0-16 to the Sweet 16 in 3 years. And, you know, we've had a lot of success since then. We've had 7 straight postseasons now and 5 NCAA tournaments. We're struggling a little bit this year, but, you know, we're gonna get back to where we need to be.
How overall have you seen the fans buy in? Obviously, we had Megan Robinson on. She was our first guest, and she talked about that night with Andrew Riley and Bedlam, 13,611 in here. What was it like having that night and having the fans come back to you after that first year going 0-16 in Big 12 play?
Well, it was just incredible. That night was probably the best basketball atmosphere that I've ever been in, and you know that's what the official attendance was. But there were people sitting in the aisles. People estimate there was closer to 15-6 than there was 13-6, and you know, probably the most impressive performance I've seen, with Andrew Riley getting 45 that night, 11 assists and no turnovers, and us pretty well dominating a very good Oklahoma team that was 6th in the country. So it was fun. I think it got people fired up and excited about Cowgirl basketball, and that was one of the stepping stones to get where we've been the last few years.
You've had some great players here, obviously Andrew Riley, Tiffany Bias, Tony Young, Kaylee Jensen, Brittany Martin. This year, Braxton Miller, Vivian Gray. What can you say about the caliber of players you've brought in here and also helped develop into great young players?
Well, not only quality basketball players, but people that represented Oklahoma State in a very positive fashion. They did a great job in the classroom. They were great teammates, great ambassadors for Oklahoma State, and all those kids you mentioned, along with the likes of Lauren Goodwin, could really, really play. And it's fun to coach people like that, and they all had a competitiveness about them that made them special, besides being really talented.
And this year, obviously, you mentioned you struggling a little bit, young team. But what have you seen about the growth of the Big 12? And you're right in the middle of the pack. And what have you seen about this conference compare on the national landscape with the rest of the country?
You know, I think the Big 12 used to be the dominant conference, and a lot of conferences have caught up. SEC's really strong, Pac-12 strong. You know, there's parity in the 5 major conferences around the country, and you know, you still have to play every night in our league. Some of the teams down near the bottom can jump up and get you any night, and you know, we've had a tough experience. We haven't been really blown out by anybody, and we've got to learn to finish games and sustain effort for 40 minutes. But the Big 12 is pretty unforgiving. If you have a bad 6-minute stretch, it puts you in a deep bind, and that's kind of what describes our team this year. And I think that has a lot to do with our youth and our inexperience, but we've had a lot of bright spots too that we could build on for the future.
been around this game for most of your life, and it's really at a great moment right now in terms of national exposure, and it's growing, and the parity in the sport's getting better. The tournaments are drawing huge crowds. Overall, what can you say about how the game has grown since you started coaching, and what it's like to be a coach at this time in this game's moment right now?
Well, the number of players that play at a high level has increased. The athleticism, the length, some of the things that young ladies can do with the basketball. You know, I probably never thought 10, 12 years ago people would be dunking, women would be dunking and playing above the rim and doing some of the things that they do. So just great to see the game evolve. There's been so many coaches that have served as pioneers to grow this game, and attendance and support of women's basketball, I believe, is going to continue to grow.
And this week is a big week, obviously. Tomorrow we have West Virginia, have Kansas on the weekend. What can you say about those two teams? I know you're going to try to take it one game at a time, but looking a little bit ahead to Kansas and just trying to think of what you need to do to accomplish to get 2 wins at home this week.
Well, West Virginia has played very well, and they got off to a little bit of a rocky start and had 3 quick losses. And Coach Carey's righted the ship and got them playing extremely hard. They're just really hooking it up on the defensive end and pressuring and forcing mistakes, and they attack the glass. And in my opinion, they've got 2 pros in Naomi Davenport and Tyneese Martin, so they're very difficult to stop. A team that's playing really, really well at this point. We've got to guard, and we got to make sure we limit them to 1 shot. I really like our effort in practice the last few days. The one thing that we can grow in and get better is making sure we finish your defensive possession by blocking somebody out. Kansas is played a lot of people tough. You know, you look at K-State sweeping Texas. Kansas goes into K-State and wins that game a few weeks ago. They've played everybody tough. Brandon Snyder is a really good basketball coach and understands the game scheme-wise and how to get his kids to play hard. So there isn't going to be any easy wins within this conference, and we got 2 big challenges again.
On the family aspect, growing up, obviously you were in a coaching family, and you coached against your parents. Just overall, what was that like? And you beat them too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And, you know, the thing that I took out of that is my dad was a real big guy into work ethic and competing and putting in the time and being prepared. And, you know, I just learned a work ethic from my dad. And my mom was a lady that really loved kids and enjoyed being around young people, and I really respected her passion for young people. So there were things I could take for both of my parents that I think that have enabled me to enjoy my career.
Your dad was a Marine. You get that work ethic from him. What have you learned from your dad, not only as a coach but also as a father yourself?
You know, my dad always had time for the kids, and he put his family first, and that's one of the things that I admire. He was hard working. He started out as a barber and was cutting hair for $2 a haircut, and then got into education after he was 40 years old and coached. So I always respected that he fulfilled a dream later in his life, but he always put his family first, and he was a man of faith too, and my dad just built a solid foundation for my sister and myself.
And your family, your wife Barb, sons Jeremy and John, and daughter JC, all athletically gifted. Jeremy is going off to dentist school, correct? Correct. And then John got drafted by the Dodgers last year after a great college career here at Oklahoma State. JC, I think the other night, second all-time in Stillwater High scoring. She's going off to UCO. What can you say about what your kids have done and how proud you are as a father?
Well, first of all, I'm married well. My wife was a really good athlete and a good player, so they get that size and athleticism from mom. But, you know, I'm very proud of all of our kids and the fact that I think they treat people right. They're respectful. They respect the game that they play. They've always been very coachable, and coaches have told me you could tell that they're coaches' kids, and that's a huge compliment for a coach. And I'm proud of where they're at. Jeremy's going into dental school in June and July, and John goes back to spring training on March 1st, and JC finishes her last part of her senior season in the playoffs here, and then hopefully we'll have a great career at Central Oklahoma. But love my wife, but very proud of my family. I brag on them too much, but I'm not going to apologize for that.
And lastly, Coach, what overall can you say about your career, not only here at Oklahoma State, but throughout all your years, and just overall the legacy you think you've built? I know you want to think personally about yourself, but what do you think you've done as a coach and helped out all these young women accomplish their dreams?
Well, I've been very blessed to have a lot of quality young ladies in programs from the high school level to Friends University to Seward County to here in Oklahoma State, and it's just special when you keep relationships with these people afterwards. I talked to Megan Gregg Williams on the phone the other day. Megan Robbins is a part of my staff. Jairus Freeman played for me. To see some of your players go on, Keith Adams coaching at Wichita State, you would just like to think that you've been a little bit of a part of their success and help them grow and get where they want to be. But I'm the one that's blessed to have been around a lot of great kids that cared about their team, their teammates, and the school they played for.
All right, that is OSU Women's Basketball head coach Jim Littell. Thank you, Coach, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Jordan. Thank you.
All right, and we'll see you back at the studio.
Welcome back in here to the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast, and Jordan King and Jordan Bishop with you in the Triple Play Sports Production Radio Studios, whatever you want to call this, where we are in the small room recording, and good interview there with Coach Littell, and again, I think people will enjoy that. So let's talk a little equestrian here. They get a win over a ranked SMU, and really good SMU program from what I understand. Here's the standings in equestrian, in case you were wondering. Just the three teams: Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State at the bottom right now, 3-4 overall, 1-2 in the Big 12. Again, this spans back to the fall season. This is one of the year-round seasons, kind of a weird thing. But Baylor 2-1, TCU 1-1, 6-4 and 5-3 respectively overall. So yeah, I mean you're in last place, but you got a little momentum going here.
Yeah, and I was reading the recap. This is the only event held in Stillwater this last weekend. I was busy doing desk and trying to get all the other stuff in. But a good quote from Larry Sanchez here, the head coach over there for the equestrian team, says, myself and the coaching staff know the team has the ability to ride with the best teams in the country. We were on the road a lot in the fall and went up against some tough teams and fell short in most of those. It was good to be back in Stillwater. It's good to see the girls' confidence is where it's at, and they're able to compete at this level. So even though their record shows, a losing record right now, he mentions they played probably the best teams in the country. It's kind of like Cowgirl tennis team a little bit, and the fact they have a losing record, but you have to look at who they played. So Equestrian, it's good to get a home win, their first home event of the spring, and to get some momentum going for them. And their next going to be this weekend. Bring TCU to town, so Big 12 match or ride, or however you say it, and hopefully get back to 500 here soon and have some momentum going for the postseason.
Yeah, well, and that's the big thing. You got a couple 2-year last, 3-year last 5, 2-year last 4 at home, so that's important. And I think he makes a good point. Obviously, you go up the following weekend up to Delaware and take on a couple of programs up there, South Dakota State and Delaware State. So it'll be interesting to see how they finish out the regular season here, and as you said, heading into postseason play. I don't know if the play is the right word. I always use the wrong word when it comes to this, but it'll be interesting to see coming up here, because they did, you look at their record at home. Baylor 11-9 win, 17-3 over West Texas A&M, beat SMU. Won all three events at home, and obviously taking a bunch of losses on the road, which is not, you don't like that, but you understand that when this team's at home, it's pretty dominant. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that brings for them.
Yeah, and you see the losses. A lot of them are pretty close. So it's not like they're getting blown out necessarily. So they're right there on the edge, and they just need some things to go their way. And hopefully it's going to start maybe with a rematch against TCU, who they lost to early in the year.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I think you are as well. So going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Talk about some women's golf, and they are down in New Orleans. And like I said, the tough life of being a collegiate golfer, I tell you what. But they are hanging around right with the kind of the rest of the pack. There's a bunch of ranked teams at the top, and like top ranked teams, not just ranked, but top 10 teams at the top of that tournament. But they're kind of hanging around with the rest of the pack, and I believe as of yesterday, I don't know, I haven't seen an updated a leaderboard, but they were above some ranked teams. So this is probably a team that coming up here, I think they rank up to 50 or so. Probably going to be a team that sneaks into that top 50 and tries to get a little momentum going here early on in the season, especially from their freshmen.
Yeah, they're ranked right now above Washington, who's 18, Arizona State 14, and then UC Davis, who's 40. He's all the way down in last place in 18th. And Cowgirls haven't had a good final day there. They dropped 6 spots. They were at 7 in the day yesterday, and now they're at 13th and they're in the last 3 holes here. They're right 1 spot behind North Carolina, who's 34. Number 3 Texas at the top of the leaderboard at just 10 over. So I think this is some good things for Courtney Jones. We talked before about how young this team is, how they did over at Stanford. They had some good moments there for the young players, and I think this is just playing in these type of tournaments with the top teams. It's going to reflect badly on your overall record, but it's only going to help you going in the future with this young crew.
Well, yeah, it's funny you talk about that because, like I said, your top 3 golfers as of yesterday were all freshmen. You have a senior in there and then either a sophomore or a junior in the starting lineup. This is a young team, and you're going to have some inconsistency with a young team, I think. But again, it's when they're good, they're good. I mean, you're led by 3 freshmen, and they are, when they're on, they're on. I mean, through the first round, I forget the let me look it up. I want to get the name right. I believe it was Camarena, Sarah Camarena. She was 1 under through the first round. She was like tied for 7th or something like that. She was right there through 1 round, and it's like when they're on, and these are golfers that can probably compete with the best of them. And with freshmen, you just got to wait for them to kind of turn it around and get things figured out a little bit. Because again, a lot of these coming from other countries, maybe you have to adjust a little bit. Now, a lot of them play world golf as juniors, and they kind of know the travel and stuff like that, but there's still something to be said about coming into college and the transition into collegiate life outside of even sports, and then obviously you add in playing college sports into it and playing a significant role as a freshman. A little bit of an adjustment period, I would assume.
Yeah, and it's hard in this sport that it's such an individual sport. It's a lot on yourself. So making that adjustment from high school, I mean, not everybody's going to be Matt Wolf out there and immediately go from Edmond to going to being in the PGA Tour. So it is a bit of an adjustment period. But for Camarena, I mean, she's doing really well for a freshman. And I think that's what people got to see when they look at this team and think, oh, man, they're not as good as the men's team. Well, the men's team honestly isn't built on all these freshmen either, and they have years and years of history behind them. Women's Coach Jones is trying to turn it around, and she's got some history built up. And I think right now we're seeing they're on the cusp of becoming one of the good programs. It's just she's putting them against the best of the country, and they're trying to hold their own water right now.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Quick word on tennis. Blue-Gray Championships. What can you tell us about the Blue-Gray Championships that you know about, or is that something you're trying to learn about tomorrow?
It's something I'll learn about tomorrow. They've honestly had a week off since ITAs. And then after this, they'll have another week off before they return home. And I think hopefully March 8th, hopefully that's going to be nice enough where they can be outdoors. I'm hoping. Because I do love outdoor tennis. I mentioned that before. And I think this week is just a week that I'll talk to Coach Young tomorrow that trying to get back in the groove of things. Hopefully people are healed back up. I know Sophia Blanco had some back problems. So we'll see if she's good to go. And overall, just how things are looking right now. I think this is just a test right between the indoors and outdoor season. They just want to keep things fresh.
Yeah, and I think Coach Young has challenged this team, and I think it was smart because we know it's a top 5 recruiting class, and we know he's going to continue to recruit at that level. So I think it's smart for him if he wants to get his program to the point where, they're looked at as one of the best in the country. You got to play the best in the country, and I think he understands that, and that's why this program has such a bright outlook. So yeah, anything else as far as the Cowgirl slate of athletics? I think we've covered just about everything.
Yeah, I think we got everything in. And again, busy time of the year, but soon, was it March 1st, Jordan, that we'll be doing soccer? Soccer will be starting their spring slate up, right?
Let me pull it up here because I should know this off the top of my head because I'm so psyched for it. It's March 2nd. Okay. March 2nd. Man, I'm ready for soccer, man. People probably think I'm a weirdo, but I'm a big soccer fan. Rogers State, Central, UCO, SMU, Tulsa, Little Rock. So that's a pretty good spring slate. I'll tell you that much. And SMU is going to be a fun one to watch up here. Tulsa is going to be fun to watch over here. And I'm really looking forward to the spring slate because again, I haven't seen an update, and I know we're going to probably try to get Kim Rodriguez on here at some point, but I believe she was in full national team camp for Mexico and at one point started a match for them, I believe, which is exciting with the Women's World Cup coming up this summer. And I don't know if Mexico is qualified. I have to look into all that. But if they did qualify and if she's part of that camp, I got to believe she's right on the cusp of getting called up to the senior team. And if she does, I mean, that's as incredible as you're going to get. I mean, 21-year-old, I don't know how old she is. She's heading into her junior year, but she has experience that no one else, not a lot of other girls playing college soccer have. And so she's valuable, and looking forward to seeing that. This team is loaded with talent. They're going to lose some big pieces. Obviously, you lose a girl like Haley Woodard. You're just going to be a little concerned about the goal-scoring presence, but I think there's still plenty of talent on this team, and Coach Colin Carmichael is one of the best in the biz, I think, and really like the way he coaches and the way he carries himself, and looking forward to that. No doubt about it. I know I went on a little soccer-loving tangent there for a second, but yeah, looking forward to that. And just want to, thank all the listeners that have listened so far. If you have any suggestions, if we're sloughing off on something that you want us to talk about, make sure you let us know, and appreciate you. If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, after all my rambling, you deserve a gold star. So appreciate everyone, and again, let us know if there's someone specific you want to hear from. We'll make our best efforts to make it happen. So Jordan, been a pleasure again this week.
Yeah, thank you, man. Hopefully get some good things going on for Cowgirl basketball this week, and we come back, and then they're hopefully in that top 6.
No kidding, man. I'm looking forward to that. End of basketball, start of a great softball season. Like I said, I'm excited for soccer and then tennis. I mean, you look at those. Equestrian's gonna be, I hope, performing well. It looks like at home they do that. So looking forward to this spring season. And as I said, people at Oklahoma State do not realize how lucky they are to have a spring sports slate like they do. It's very unique, and they should really appreciate that. Hard to believe we're 7 episodes in, but we are. This is the close of Cowgirl Coverage 007. Thanks so much for joining us. For Jordan Bishop, thanks to Coach Littell for joining us earlier on and out at GIA. Good conversation there with he and Jordan. I'm Jordan King. This is the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast on the Triple Play Sports Podcast Network.